evening. I'm Dr. Cheryl Knoll. I'm the chair of the School of Business. Welcome to Longtin Hall and this evening's Executive in Residence presentation by Mr. Al Longtin. At this time, I would like to recognize the faculty who are involved in the External Relations Committee in the School of Business. These kinds of events happen only with faculty participation and a lot of coordination and a lot of hard work. I'd like to thank Mr. Paul Brown, who has brought Mr. Longtin here with us and created a really good couple of days for his visit here. So thank you, Paul. I appreciate all your hard work.
Thanks, Paul.
Mr. Longtin is a School of Business finance alum, which is why he asked all the finance students to sit up front. Prior to college, and he didn't tell us what year he graduated, so I'm not...
1986.
1986. I wasn't sure if I was allowed
150 years ago.
Prior to college,
Old.
he spent 4 years in the U.S. Navy, and we heard a couple of stories about that at dinner time, so he has some really interesting stories to share. Al Longtin is the president and CEO of AB Resources Incorporated and the managing director of Capital Financial Group. He specializes in assisting businesses and high net worth individuals to address long-term wealth transfer and business planning issues. The advice that he provides is focused on creating legacies through wealth creation and wealth preservation plans that utilize a wide variety of financial products and services. He has worked with multi-generation members of Family Health Wealth and has focused on business succession planning and rewarding and retaining key executives by designing state-of-the-art executive benefit plans. Mr. Longtin is a nationally recognized expert regarding family limited partnerships, family foundations, and complicated estate trust designs. He is frequently asked to participate as a member of the board of directors for leading privately held businesses and is currently serving on the Creative Agent Advisory Board for the Creative Marketing International Corporation. Mr. Longtin has attained designations as Chartered Financial Consultant and Chartered Life Underwriter with the American College. He is an active member of the Society of Financial Services Professionals and the Chicago Estate Planning Council and is a past president of the Bishop McNamara High School Alumni Board. On a personal note, Mr. Longtin is a competitive national road racer, as you saw from the first slide that was up here, and he also enjoys golf, running, cycling, and being with his family. He has run in several marathons, and I think he said 6, correct?
Yeah.
6 marathons, and enjoys the challenge of training. Mr. Longtin and his wife have 2 children and reside in New Lenox, Illinois, where they are very active in their local church. We're very privileged to have Mr. Longtin with us as an executive in residence. He has spent this afternoon and he will spend the tomorrow morning meeting with students and faculty. And I certainly hope that he has enjoyed his stay here with us so far as much as we have enjoyed meeting with him. Please warmly welcome him to the stage.
Thank you. Thank you, Cheryl. I appreciate it very much. It's a privilege and an honor to be here with you tonight. I didn't expect this many people to show up because if you were from my hometown, you probably wouldn't think I have a very good reputation, so you all must not know me. But anyway, I have a great appreciation for the time that I spent here at Eastern Illinois University. When I was here, I don't know if I appreciated it so much as you do as you go through life. And but I want to say thanks to one person, Stephen Call, who's actually helped me reconnect to this school. Somehow we got engaged, and he's been working here for what, just this year in the development office, and it was really, really interesting because I told him that I don't know why I never really connected and got engaged back with my college, but I got very engaged back with my high school. And I'm one of these people that I think it's very important to recognize as you go on in your life the people that help you get the places that you're at. And just wanted to make sure that you guys understand that. I want to start off by telling you that if you heard the music playing before we started here, I just want to let you know that I kind of like music. I'm one of those goofy dads that like dances and embarrasses their kids. I have a 20-year-old daughter that goes to Arizona State University, and she says, "Dad, you don't embarrass me anymore, you just embarrass yourself." So if these guys saw me dancing, I'm like one of them guys at the wedding. You're just like turn your head and say, "Nah, nah," you know. But anyway, I think music can set a stage, can help us understand things a little bit better. There's a creative side of me that I'm a hack Fender Stratocaster guitar player, and I play like old rock and roll like Ted Nugent and kind of crazy old stuff like Aerosmith. So, but the problem is I can't finish all the songs because I can't remember the songs. But if you've ever played a musical instrument, you probably understand that it's not easy and to learn those things if you don't keep up on it. But I'm going to set some rules for the engagement tonight. First off, I said I'm only going to speak tonight. Number one, you guys have an open mind about what I'm talking about. Okay? So we good on that? Open mind. Two, have an open heart. What does a heart do for you? Passion. Your passions come from your heart. So you have an open heart. And number three, just yell "4" like a golfer would before you start throwing things at me. All right? So just make sure I know about that. I'm the youngest of 9. I've got 7 older brothers, and I got a lot of things thrown at me as a kid, so I had a couple things. But, oh yeah, and we have to do the social media disclaimer. That is, if you take pictures, just don't tag me on your Facebook tonight, okay? Mainly because I still got like 18 pounds to lose on this whole diet thing I've been on for the last 20 years. It's okay, one pound a year, another 18 years, and I might be there. But anyway, seriously, I truly hope you guys get something out of the talk tonight, and somehow it helps motivate you, put some thoughts in your mind, plant some seeds. Just might be a stepping stone or something to your future. And I was asked to be in this executive residence thing, and what I wanted to tell you was that there's really 4 things that they asked me to be in this. And that one is the student motivation. 2 is express where the my companies fit into my AB Resources, the company that I own and started in 1992, fit into the world of business, what AB Resources expects from professional employees, and what tools and skill sets prospective employees are expected to possess. Tonight we're going to be talking about business relationships in a transaction world. The context of this, how many of you would agree that we live in a world where transactions are pretty quick and easy to make without really having a human touch with somebody? Big time. 99-cent songs on my iPhone, right? Am I really touching anybody that works for iTunes? Not really. But we've got, we got $249 computers I can buy on eBay. Anybody got any other examples of like transaction things where really there's really no humans involved in it? You're just buying stuff? In your own mind, you probably have a few. Anyone? Debit card. Perfect example. Used to be you had to write a check, look at the person you're buying it from, the merchant, hand them the check, and they trusted you. If you paid for your dinner back like 100 years ago when I was your age. But we're in a transaction world, and we're going to talk about building those relationships. Left, forward. Okay. We already have the technical difficulties. Left. Is it a battery?
Hold on. Yeah, you better just use the keyboard.
Okay. Anyway, we're going to be talking about relationships. When you talk in a relationship, you have 2 different people, right? Somebody's talking, somebody's listening. When you have a relationship you build online, wherever you're at in classes, you have 2 people talking. This is one of my favorite quotes. I went to Wikipedia, which I understand is not the approved professor school system for definitions, but since I use that, I wanted to find out what is a transaction and how is it defined. And if you guys look at this, there's a couple of words in this that stick out. Transactions involve what? Entities or objects. So if you're an entity and you're an object, is that real personal? No. Transaction, 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 right? So entities and objects. Moving songs that I buy off my iPhone, boom, right? Not a lot of personal relationship stuff going on there. When you buy things or you are out in the market trying to shop for things, you're trying to find for some kind of connection typically. Transactions don't give you that kind of connection that most of us desire. At your age, you guys have all gone through, you guys and girls have all gone through a lot of this transaction kind of mentality. As an owner of a company, CEO of a company, I want to tell you, I get people that are coming in that seem to think that things just happen automatically. They don't happen by motivation. They don't happen by finding out people's objectives and needs. They think, well, if I just tell the story, something's going to happen. Doesn't work that way, does it, Ryan? In the real world, we have transactions, and then we have interpersonal relationship. Why do I have interpersonal relationship on there? Because I'm talking about personal relationships. If you look up Wikipedia, there's like 6 different definitions of relationships, okay? And the definitions of relationships are like, let's think about mathematics. Any of you understand there's a relationship from variable A and variable B and how those go, you know, whether they're linear, nonlinear, and all that kind of stuff. That stuff that I got like B's and C's on when I was at EIU, struggling through my business calculus going, oh my God, not another test like this, please. The guy's going to kill me. I can't get through. I wasn't one of those guys that was like a super great, super A student in the really advanced mathematics stuff. But I did like finite mathematics. Any of you like finite mathematics? I don't know, for some reason I liked it. Interpersonal relationships, an association between 2 or more people that may range from fleeting to enduring, usually involves some level of interdependence. People in a relationship tend to influence each other, share their thoughts and feelings, and engage in activities together. Hello, sir. What's your name?
Eric.
Eric. Nice to meet you. Thank you for coming tonight. I appreciate it. Eric, I appreciate you sitting in the front row. It takes a lot of courage, especially if you know I'm talking. So what are the words that we can look at here and learn something from? Influence each other and engage in activities together, right? So what did the transaction have that the interpersonal relationship doesn't have? Objects and entities. This one here has what? The human element. The human element of me touching his hand, shaking his hand, asking him his name, looking in his eye. When I got out of this school at EIU, I went out into the working field. One of the first things I had to do was deal with people that were trying to hire me. They're trying to hire me, and they're interviewing me, and I'm looking at my shoes. What is the guy thinking? When he's sweating when he walks into the office and he's all disheveled and he's got to interview me, and I don't ask him what's going on in his life that makes him feel rushed and hurried, maybe he's going to pay attention a little more if I pay attention to him. So if I pay attention to the other person, remember there's 2 people in this relationship. This is the kind of thing I'm telling you. I believe there's a void that's happening in our life. Technology is not to blame, but it's part of the issue. And I see people who are not willing to influence each other and engage in activities together. I'm going to tell you a real quick story about Doc Searles, who actually was a guy that is one of 4 authors that wrote in early 2000s, a book called the Clue Train Manifesto. Clue Train Manifesto was a book written about how marketing was going to change, how the internet was going to change marketing. It was one of them books that I read, because I'm one of these guys that read books most of the time that nobody else reads, because I'm just goofy like that. But the book describes, he wrote a chapter in it called Market Conversations. And I'll never forget, I read this thing. And it said that the internet's going to turn into a kind of a world where there's actually going to be developed market conversations. The other night, I'm on realcyclist.com where I buy those goofy, stupid shorts and things that biker guys that look like, you know, like fat old guys shouldn't be wearing that kind of stuff. I'm on there, and all of a sudden a box pops up. And it's a person asking me, can I help you? Can I assist you? And I like freak out. I'm on the internet. I'm like, whoa, hey, what is it? And it's like a person that pops up, and it's a person that's asking me if they can help me and answer questions live. I'm like, that's pretty cool. So I started having a conversation with that person. Found out where that person was from. That was a real person. It wasn't a person from India, by the way, or from some other country. It was actually a person from the United States and from San Diego area. And we had a good conversation. It was pretty cool. So that book kind of helped. But Dr. Searles was sitting on an airplane flying back from speaking engagement in Nigeria, and he was sitting next to a Nigerian pastor. The Nigerian pastor spoke 8 different languages and was also on the speaking tour, but he was specialized in translating Bibles into languages in the different native tribes' languages. Okay? So like not every tribe in Africa has the same language, even if they're in the same country. There might be 20 different languages. I didn't know that, but they're sitting on an airplane, and the next thing you know, Doc Searles starts talking about what he's writing this book on, and Market Conversations was his chapter that he was on. And he said, well, you know, the market's turning into Market Conversations, and the pastor said, well, I think you're right, but I don't think that's everything. He said, what do you mean? He said, well, in my country, when you want to go down to buy some material to make shirts and things, because we're not afforded the right to be able to go to JCPenney and buy our shirts, and you want to go into the marketplace and you want to buy some kind of goods, you go over there and you walk into the marketplace, and there might be a person that's selling the yarn, or might be selling the shirt, the material, the cotton or whatever, and the silk, and you start having these conversations with that person, and if that person asks you questions about what you're going to be making, you might engage that person a little bit more than a person that just says it's $3.99 a yard, right? And Doc Searles said, well, I would agree with you, but tell me more. And he said, well, what if that person started having a conversation with the person in front of them, found out what they were going to use, not only what they were going to try to make, but they were using it for. Are you using it for work? Are you using it to go out in the fields? What are you trying to do? What kind of material do you want to have? He said, how important is price if that person starts asking those questions and really starts digging in and finding out what that person in the marketplace, the other person, the buyer, is looking for? In that example, I can tell you price doesn't matter much. Why? Because the seller in the marketplace, who's selling the cotton or the material, is engaged in what with that customer or that buyer? A relationship. Developing a relationship. So I read this. I was doing the research for the study, and it was really fascinating. And you think when you go into markets, you just nip, and I don't know if any of you have ever been to Mexico or some of these other foreign countries, less developed countries. You go in and you negotiate and you bargain and you do this, and I'll give you $5, and I want $8. I'll give you $3. And this is the way it is in Mexico. I'm telling you, big time. I go to Cabo San Lucas and I go to Cancun, but I go to Cabo San Lucas like twice a year, and you go to the market and they don't ever talk to you. So it's all about price. When it's all about price, what is that about? It's a guy who sells it for the least, wins the battle. How long can you exist if you do that? Transaction still matters. You want to have the transaction happen. Biggest wedge, this is what the Nigerian pastor said, the biggest wedge in the social pie of the public marketplace is relationship. Price is less set than found. And the context for finding prices is both conversation and relationship. Do you guys understand the concept of elasticity from economics class? How elastic a product is? A lot of people don't understand the concept of relationships and what that has to do with elasticity. You can charge a lot of money to do some things that other people are selling for half the price, as long as you add what? Value. Big value to that relationship. Bottom line is not everything as far as profit goes, just to sell it for $3.99. How many of you people are on, how many of you people get Groupon? Okay, you're in college, you probably don't have any money to get Groupon, but Groupon sends out these, they send out these things every day to me. I got a question to ask you. Groupon every day sends me another deal of the day. They send it for Chicago and they send it for Phoenix, okay? Groupon's never engaged me in asking me what I would like to purchase or what my needs are. But I can tell you one thing to learn from Groupon is the next time anybody wants to make fun of sales or being a salesperson, tell them Groupon's the biggest salesperson you've ever met in your life. What Groupon did is figure out how to sell things for people that don't know how to sell them themselves. So Groupon, but that's a very good example where they never engage me in a relationship. So they don't know what I really want. So I get like the spa treatment in Phoenix. And I don't want that. Got a story. I'm going to buy a, I had a mother-in-law, bless her heart, she died about 4 years ago, 3-4 years ago. She was one of these that never learned how to drive. So when she got around electronic things, she got a little worried. She still liked to change the channel on the TV. She would watch Chicago Bears games and throw stuff at the TV. I loved her. I mean, she was a cool lady. But I went into this thing where I thought I wanted to buy her a camera so she could recapture moments with her grandchildren, etc. So I went in. First thing I did is I went on the internet. I never forget this. I went on the internet and I figured I'm going to go on the internet and find her a camera. Man, I went on the internet. All of a sudden, there's megapixels, there's pixels, there's apertures, there's all this crazy stuff associated with cameras. And now I realized I don't know nothing about cameras. You know, I really don't know. I don't know battery life, all this kind of stuff. So I go to where I go to Orland Park. Anybody from Orland Park in the crowd? Yeah, okay, so you know the deal, Best Buy in Orland Park, right? Go to Orland Park and walk in there. I walk in, and first off, I don't even know where the cameras are, right? I'm over looking at refrigerators or something. My wife's like, hey, we're here to look at cameras, aren't we? Because my wife's one of those shoppers, she goes in and gets out. I'm one of them guys that walks around, sees people, talks, looks at everything, you know. So I go up there, and finally we find the camera department. I go up there, and this guy goes, hey, yeah, what are you, can I help you, sir? And I said, sure, I'm looking for a camera. And he says, well, he says what Best Buy people are trained to say, well, what are you looking to spend on a camera today? I mean, that's all the sales training, I guess, they gave Best Buy people that year in the camera department. And I said, well, what are the prices of cameras? He says, we have cameras that range from $79 to $799. So I said, I want to spend between $79 and $179, or $799. I want to spend between $79 and $799. And he looked at me like he had 3 eyeballs and didn't know what to say now because I didn't tell him what price point I wanted to enter. So we go through this conversation, and the conversation basically existed. He said, well, all I can tell you, he said, is that's our really big seller over here. He brings me over to this camera. It's like a $129 one or $99 one. Like, that's the one everybody's buying today. And I kind of thought about it, and I thought, you know what? This dude doesn't even care about what, this is a camera for my mother-in-law. She's a cool lady, man. So I leave Best Buy, and I go to this place called Wolf Camera. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of them. So I walk into Wolf Camera, which is actually closer to my house. Funny thing, closer to my house. I go to Wolf Camera, and I'm thinking this is like one of them little boutique shops, It's going to be, I'm going to walk in there, and I'm going to end up walking out with a tripod and spending $1,000 on a Nikon or something. And I walk in there, and the first thing the lady says to me is, "Hello, Al. Can I help you with something? How are you?" And I said, how does she know my first name? "Oh, you work out at Cardinal Fitness, or you are Lifetime Fitness." Yeah, and we had met before. So then she says, what are you doing in here?" "Oh, I'm shopping for a camera for my mother-in-law." She asked me the following questions. She says, "How knowledgeable is your mother-in-law about using cameras? How often is she going to use it? What does she want? What does she want out of a camera?" And I said, my mother-in-law's the kind of, I got to have a camera, and I got to put it in, like, she's got to be able to put it in a drawer, pull it out, that's it, man. It's got to be really simple, but I want it to be quality. So she goes through these questions and tells me, "Well, I think I got a camera over here that would fit what your mother-in-law really would like." Alice is her name. She actually knew Alice's name by the end of the conversation. And, bottom line is, what do you think is the question I didn't ask? I didn't ask her the price of the camera. She said, "This is the camera based on what you told me that Alice is going to use, she's going to appreciate, and she's going to utilize." So the bottom line was I ended up spending $249 on a camera. I don't know if you could have got it on eBay, half.com, Amazon.com, or whatever for 99 bucks if you knew Paul Brown. But I bought the camera because I figured if it didn't work for Alice, she could come back and see the person at Wolf Camera. And I'm not the camera expert. So Best Buy lost the sale. I have a son named David. David is 17 years old, plays video games better than probably 80% of you in here, which is kind of a challenge for me. But anyway, he's into this tuner thing, sports cars and all that stuff. I race sports cars and Indy cars, like, Formula 1 cars, Indy cars are. I did that on and off for like 15 years. And then I raced sports cars for a hobby. And David has this G35 Infinity, which I know a lot of you would be like, whoa, but it's a nice car. But he wants to put the wheels on it. He wants to do all this kind of stuff. And David's a good kid. He's a really good kid, but I can't trust him with money because it'll be like there ain't no limit. So I go online. He says he wants a catback exhaust system. Anybody know what a catback exhaust system is? It makes your car sound like it's really cool when you like hammer it. Okay, so we go online. We find like he finds 4 or 5 different places and shops the prices. This one's $12.99. This one's $10.99. This one's $11.49. Shipping's included, not included. He finds all the prices. So I buy this thing from some shop, some shop in Houston or something for like aftermarket parts for cars, for like tuner cars. So we buy the thing. I send the guy an email, and I tell him, you know what? By the way, I also have a question about if I'm buying a cold air and induction thing, cold air thing. It's an air filter thing, makes it a little stronger. I said I wanted to know if you had the engine, I-N-J-E-N, or you had the other one. And I'm also thinking about looking at a brake system. And I also would like your opinion on shocks and coilover shocks. Now, this is no kidding. The guy sending me the email sends me back and says, well, I'm working on your son's order to get him the catback exhaust system. I'll get back to you on the rest of that. We got the catback exhaust system. Does anybody in this room have any idea how much other stuff I was talking to that guy about buying? Anybody know? Coilover springs, Brake kit. Oh, I didn't say the brake kit too. Brembo brake kit, coilovers, $4,000, $5,000 worth of stuff. So what's the lesson learned? Best to read your emails. Don't miss those cross-selling opportunities. He was so, in fact, I guess this guy was just so busy getting orders through, he didn't have the time to talk to me about what we were trying to do. So where do you think I'm going to get the IBACs at, the coilovers? I'm going to the local place, to the guy who's going to put them on, who's going to order them, and does it matter whether I pay $200 or $100 less? Because I want the guy who's putting them on. He orders it. That way if something's wrong with it, it's his issue, right? But that guy talked to me about putting on the brake system, and he said, no, you don't want to do that Brembo thing. You can do an AP system. You can do this and that. It's basically, it's like $500, $800 less. So we need to move from thinking about selling products to, well, actually we have moved from this. We sell products, and then we move into providing products and services that go along with this. And we need to move into owning consumer experiences. Consumer experience. Can somebody say what a consumer experience is? Anybody got any examples of consumer experiences? Like, yeah, I went to a place and they actually sat us at a table that was desirable, felt like the food was good, service was great. The lady that served me made me feel special because that was just her approach, or the guy that served me made me feel special. Anybody ever give a bigger tip in this room? I know you don't have a lot of discretionary money, but a bigger tip to someone who made you feel special? Anyone here? Okay. Or is it always just 15%, 10%, or whatever? Is it 10%? If you're a college student, I think you're exempt from the 15% rule. I think you're more on the 7% rule, but that's why when you go into restaurants and they go, oh no, that kid in college got an Eastern shirt on. No, right? But owning consumer experiences. How many people want to dream the client's dream before they fulfill the client's need? In our business, we have to do that. We provide services at the highest end to privately held, family-owned businesses and entrepreneurs, and some of the most successful financial people in the United States of America. People who have net worths of $100 million, $4 billion are our clients. People who make $200 million a year in income. Yeah, more than your rock star buddies, right? People who actually have a lot of advisors, a lot of CPAs, tax attorneys, and people around them. And I told people in the classes today that I was shocked one day when I was sitting in Greenwich, Connecticut in a meeting with CPAs, tax attorneys, and all these people, and all the family members, and they were all Ivy League graduates, and they were sitting there listening to my presentation of how I was going to save this family $30 million a year in income taxes. And then it hit me. I'm not kidding you. You got to listen to this part. It hit me. Here was an EIU student who came to this school. We really didn't know what I was going to do for my career. Had no idea. Somehow I fell into finance. Kind of knew that I liked that area. And I'm sitting there giving a family like that with $4 billion in net worth advice on what to do for tax strategies. It had nothing to do with me, I'm telling you. My first thought was, here, this place, the high school I went to, the grade school I went to. You see, a lot of our success is due to other people, and I think a lot of us don't like to we don't like to give other people the credit. But how many of you think that you'd be where you're at today if it wasn't for your mom or your dad or your parents or your guardian or whoever that might be? Seriously. always make sure we give other people the recognition. So we move from the transaction mindset by asking questions, finding out more about people, right? Other key relationship. Let me tell you a little story about a guy named Jack Lee. I took a vacation with my family to my favorite spot, Huntington Beach, California, to the Hyatt Huntington Beach, California, this summer. Hyatt Huntington Beach, California is on the beach. That's where they have the World Surfing Championships and all that, U.S. Surfing Championships. When I was in the Navy, I learned how to surf. I was a farm boy from Bourbonnais, Illinois, and I had learned how to surf. But I still have this thing that I'm going to prove to somebody that I can actually stay on a surfboard for longer than like 20 seconds, which is about my record for all time for my career. But we go to Hyatt Huntington Beach. My son, 17 years old, is with me. Remember I told you about he likes the Infiniti G35, the whole tuner thing, likes cars, all this kind of stuff. We're hanging out at the hotel. We figure out the first night, Mom and his sister, she's 20 years old. They're kind of hanging out doing their thing. So we decided we're going to go out and we're going to go check out Southern California, see if we can find any of those tuner cars, because a lot of times they go into parking lots and they hang out together and they have Mitsubishis and Subarus and all these kind of cool cars. And so you get to hang out with these guys. So we go out and we do the valet thing at the Hyatt. You hand them the thing, and they go get your car. They go get the car. They come back in. And this guy pulls up in my car, gets out. He's got this goofy hat on. They make him wear these goofy hats. And he gets out, and he's dressed in this outfit I know he doesn't like wearing, but he's a really nice guy. And he says, "Hey, how you doing, Bill?" Gets me in the car and says, "So where are you guys going tonight?" And we're sitting in the car, and I go, "Well, we were going to go out and drive around Long Beach area or something, just see if we can find some like tuner guys hanging out with their cars and stuff. Kind of like the Fast and Furious thing. Can we find a parking lot and watch these guys racing in a parking lot?" I don't encourage any racing on streets, by the way. I belong to a private country club, and we have a racing country club. It's crazy, but we have sports cars, and we go there, and it's safe. But anyway, so the guy says, "Oh," he goes, and I said, "I want to find those tuner guys." And he goes, "Oh, I'm one of those guys." This is Jack Yee. He says, "I'm one of those guys." I said, "Really?" And my son says, "Really? What kind of car you got?" He says, "Oh," he goes, "Why? What kind of car do you have?" He asked my son first. My son says, "I have an Infiniti G35. And he goes, "Oh, I have a Skyline GTR. My son about flipped out. This is like a car that was made in Japan in the early 90s that has a right-hand driving wheel because they drive on the opposite side of the road. My son's like, "You're kidding me. I can't believe you got this car." So he says, "Hey, if you want to see the car, plus I can show you where you go to meet these kind of people. So you want to see my car?" So right away, he brings us down to this garage. After us waiting, we waited for like 10 or 15 minutes for him. He brings us down to this garage and shows my son this car, this 1992 Skyline GTR, Japanese-made Nissan that is just unbelievable. And it's got like 500 horsepower and all this kind of crazy stuff. So my son ends up saying, "Dad, this is awesome. I can't believe this." Then later, Jack we leave. He tells us where to go to look for those kind of cars and those people where they're hanging out in Huntington Beach, right up the road, actually. So then he says the next night we're going to have a thing where we all get together in this Lowe's parking lot up in Long Beach. So we go up to Long Beach. We hang out with Jack. There's all these kids with these cars. My son's relating to them. I'm with them. And Jack had told all these kids that we were coming. And he said, "This old guy, you have to put up with him. He's kind of fat, rides a bike or whatever." But anyway, he's bringing his son. So we end up having this great time, this experience with this guy, right? He brings us to his friend's garage. And his garage has all these cars. So we go through all this kind of stuff. And his friend, this is the wild part of the story, his friend pulls out a camera, starts showing me pictures of their mechanic that takes care of all these cars. And I said, "Stop, hang on." I look at a car. I said, "That's one of my client's cars." A client of mine is a professional sports car racing guy. His mechanic worked on one of my client's cars. I mean, it's a pretty small world. You have things you find out when you actually engage people and you find out. But the moral of the story was, when I was leaving the Hyatt Huntington Beach, California, 3 days later, and we were going off to Tempe, Arizona to bring my daughter to ASU, what do you think what kind of tip you gave, money tip, you think I gave Jack Yee, the valet? A good one or a bad one? I gave Jack Yee what I paid for a hotel for one night as a tip. Hyatts are not cheap in Huntington Beach, California in the summer. Now, here's the best part of the story. Jack Yee sent me a picture of his baby he had 2 weeks ago. We have a relationship. Do you think if Jack Yee could fit into my company somewhere, I might just think about hiring him? He was the most important employee that Hyatt had at that time, that night, for that couple of days, by far. The concierge at the Hyatt Regency was busy looking at their computer when I checked in. No kidding. They were busy looking at their computer. They actually, concierge, you know what a concierge is in a fancy hotel? That's a person that's supposed to engage you and show you a good time. They were looking at the computer when we checked in. The person that I checked in with at Hyatt didn't ask me any questions about what we're doing while we're here. Jack Yee was the #1 employee for Hyatt that stay. I'm just telling you, as employees, when you get into jobs, I want to tell you something really quickly. Relationships. Not only relationships with outside people like myself, but you're going to get hired, you're going to go into places, and you're going to have to develop relationships with supervisors, with co-workers, with those kind of people. Let me tell you what. I had a supervisor, sales manager that hired me when I got out of this school. He went to Notre Dame. Okay? I'm not a Notre Dame fan. Okay? So we'll just get that straight right out of the box. And I went to a Catholic school and I'm not a Notre Dame fan. That's really out of the box. So he used to tout around about all them domers and all that Notre Dame stuff. I couldn't stand the guy, man. I just soon punch him in the face every time I seen him. Probably kind of like a couple you want to do with me right now. But the bottom line is I had to work with that guy and develop a relationship and learn how to work around him. You know what a lot of people do these days when they're working with someone that has frictions? And what people will even help you justify you to doing? Go look for another job. You don't get along with that person, whatever, just go find another job. How easy is that in this marketplace? You're going to have to work with people you don't like. You're going to have to work with people that just bother the what out of you. But engage, work in the business. Work in the business. Put in an extra hour or 2 hours of time. I'm telling you. Do not go out and start job hopping because you don't get along with the people you're working with. Learn to work with them. Now, if they're unreasonable, idiot fools that are lying about stuff, and there's an ethical issue with the place you work at, okay, then you got to get out of there. But it's a big thing. One of the big things we do at our company is I reward community work. People start at our company, they have 1 week, 2 weeks vacation and 1 week of community work they can do. That means they have to go out and volunteer and do something in the community. They get a full week off paid. Out of the box. I don't care if they're part-time, if they're full-time. They get a week to go out and do something good. How many of you in school here have ever volunteered to help out, do something, raise money, do anything like that? Okay? Do you get a good feeling when you do that stuff? I mean, seriously. If you went and worked out and you didn't, here's the thing. I have a theory. When you get out of yourself, some of you write this down. When you can get out of yourself and into other people, that's when you will learn the true idea of being a servant leader or a person who's serving others. Serving others, if you're feeling really down and you're sitting in this room right now and you're feeling bummed out, your life is miserable or whatever, I'm telling you, the easiest way to get out of that funk is to start looking at helping others around you. I'm not kidding you. You will not prove me wrong. I'm telling you, it works 100% of the time. So if I have employees that are kind of like, what a bum job, I don't like this job, you know, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I got to move boxes over here. This is stupid. I don't know what I'm doing here. And they go out and they work a week at a youth camp, or they go work a week at a cerebral palsy center with the less fortunate. They go work a week. Try this one out. We had an employee volunteer for a week in hospice care. Holy cow. You know what hospice care is, you guys? Anybody here? Anybody here had to look at a relative, a mom, a dad, a grandma, a grandfather who had to go through hospice care? You know what I'm talking about? Change your perspective on life a little bit. Whew. You hang around people that are terminally ill or close to it, it makes you think about life. The energy of relationships. Do you guys feel any energy that I have with you guys right now? Any of you at all? You, Smiley? Any? Yeah, right? She's easy. She smiles like you right away. But the bottom line is the energy relationships. Ryan walked into this room, saw me, comes up here. I met him when I was down here talking to the securities analysis class or whatever it was. Student Investment Society. Something like that, right? Yep. Bunch of guys trying to pick stocks, trade a portfolio, whatever. In a choppy market. Don't make sense. But anyway, we won't go into that. What kind of relationships do you seek out? Oh, this is great. Think of this. I got a plug, okay? I got a cord. You know them extension cords? I got a cord hanging from me. And I want to plug in to get energy or not get energy, right? You ever been around people when you plug into them, all of a sudden you feel like, man, I can't put up with this. They sap all your energy. They pull you down, the negativity. Anybody like that? Right? They're around you. We all can say we're all are probably like that sometimes. I'm like that sometimes. Man, you hear me about, you know, I start bitching up a storm, and next thing you know, it's pretty bad. But always try to hang around people that when you plug into them, they give you energy. I'm telling you. I'm around some of the best entrepreneurial guys that started companies. This is what I focused on in my business. I focused on working with high net worth people. We did that on purpose because high net worth people's incomes are growing and their net worth is growing. Look at the last 20 years of data. I went into that business to serve them. I'm hoping someday that when I retire, I can serve the people who are less fortunate. Unfortunately, there was not an incline in the wealth of the less fortunate or the middle class in this country over the last 20 years. It's a widening gap. I serve the high end of the market. I believe it's my time to go back and give back. I do a lot of charity work and that kind of stuff. But relationships, I hang out with some of the coolest people. Out of the blue, me and another entrepreneur met a guy named Tiger. First time he ever played at a golf course named Cog Hill. Spent the whole day with him. He had a caddy that had one of them bags. The bag was like the kind that you buy at the store. He was an amateur, and he was on his way to go to school at Stanford. He told me he was going to be an economics major. I spent the whole day with him, and his father, Earl. The relationship I saw between his father, Earl, and Tiger was incredible. Do you think I ever asked him for his autograph? No, he's just another guy. Tiger fell. We all know this, right? You guys saw the headlines. Tiger fell. We're all susceptible to temptations and things like that. It's very hard when you get on the top to not be a person that people are trying to prey on. And they'll bring you left, right, this and that. So you got to be around the people that will help you stay the course. So you got the choice of who you're going to plug into. You guys with me for another 10 minutes, or you all want to go? Can you give me 10 minutes? A guy named Miles Monroe wrote a book called Realizing Your Potential, or Understanding Your Potential. Miles Monroe grew up in an area in the Bahamas. He grew up in an area in the Bahamas that I had remembered. When I'm reading this book, I had remembered the area in the Bahamas that I went to when I was in the United States Navy. 20 years old, we went to the Bahamas, and they said, hey, don't, you guys, when they let us off the ship, I told you guys I was in the United States Navy. So we go to the Bahamas. They say, the captain says, don't go over the hill. You got it? You got it? What's your name again?
Tyler.
Where do you think me and my buddies went as soon as we get off the ship?
Probably over the hill.
Over the hill. We went over the hill. We grew up in the 70s. We weren't looking for, bit of honeys. But anyway, we went over the hill. So Miles Monroe, this guy is a guy that grew up over the hill in the Bahamas. He wrote this book. I read this book, and I'm going to tell you, I want you guys to read this with me. This is the foreword to his book, the first beginning of the foreword. Could you guys help me out? Perhaps a bland lifestyle like this is encouraged by an apathetic society that prefers the easy shortcut to the hard, productive way, exalts goofing off rather than diligence, promotes a work ethic that concentrates more on what is due me than on what I owe, shrugs its shoulders rather than extend a helping hand, replies to every call to action with, "What's in it for me?" and prefers to sit out a problem rather than sweat out a solution. I'm telling you what, I read this book and I read this thing right here. I got it underlined 50 times. I was one of them, like, it just slapped me in the face. And I thought about this and I thought, I've been in this world. Have you all lived in this world? Kind of like you go, you know what, I just really don't care anymore. I just don't care no more, okay? Miles Monroe touched me by writing this book. The guy from over the hill in the Bahamas. I didn't meet him when I was there, but he wrote the book and I read that he lived over that hill. I wish I would have met him when I was there. In his preface to the book, where do you guys, he writes this part, and this blew me away. The wealthiest spot on the planet is not where you think it is. Is the wealthiest spot on the planet where the Middle East, where all the oil fields are? Is it the South African diamond mines and the gold mines? Is it, how about Silicon Valley? Used to be, chip making and all that stuff. Miles Monroe contends that the wealthiest place is right around the corner from where your house is. Probably within a mile or 2 miles of most of your old house, unless you live out in the farms or something. It's in the graveyard. The wealthiest place in the world. It's a tragedy because what could have been has become what should have been. The wealth of dreams has been dashed in the poverty of discouragement. I didn't have you guys stay here this last 10 minutes to be a Debbie Downer, whatever you want to call it. But how many of you have ever thought about doing something, wanted to say something to somebody, and you didn't do it? I got 2 arms up for that one. How many of you thought in your mind, you know what would be nice for me to call my mom or to text her? But you didn't do it. I didn't have texting, but. By the way, I lost my father a week after I graduated high school. My mother died 9 months later. Changed my life when I was 18. There is so much untapped potential in this room right here. I'm looking at all of you here. I know I interviewed a guy named Ryan, a phenomenal guy. I can tell you, he knows it. We all know in this room there's a ton of untapped potential. Every employer out there is waiting for you to realize your own potential. People don't want to employ you for you just to be another, well, I thought about doing it, but I didn't want to, I didn't do it yesterday. Every single one of you. I'm not talking about just a few of you. I'm talking about every single one of you individually has potential that you probably can't even imagine. Do you think when I was sitting here in 1985 in a finance class, I ever thought about be sitting at a conference table with a family worth $4 billion, giving them a strategy on how to save $30 million a year in income taxes? I had no idea. I just wanted to get a job. Do you know when I got out of here, I actually had a goal to make an income? And that income was, I'm telling you, was a lot higher than the average income. In 1 year, I made 10 times that amount. Another year I made 20 times that amount. You know, I didn't do it for the money, though. I did it because I had potential. And I knew there was potential in using my brain, the things that I learned at a school like this, putting my decision-making skills and my data analyzing skills together. That's what happens. I have partners of CPA firms that work underneath me now. It's unbelievable. I never thought that I'd get CPAs working underneath me. I could pass the CPA exam if I had to. I mean, telling you, say, hey, if it's life or death, I'd probably pass it. But I had to come back to Eastern for like 3 semesters so I could get ready for it. Purpose is really key. When I said potential needs, though, to have a purpose, you know what I'm saying, purpose? Do you think, when you guys watch sporting events, you guys watch football? Anybody watch football, basketball, baseball, all these sports? It's really brought into the fold here where what is their purpose all the time? We want to win a Super Bowl, right? We're going to the Super Bowl. We're going to be division champions. We're going to do this, right? How many of you have ever worked at any place as an employee? Any place, right? Could you imagine every time you walked into work, there was 70,000 or 80,000 people in the stands watching you when that clock clicked 8 o'clock or whatever time you started work? Would you work harder if that was 80,000 people watching you? But you try a little bit harder? I try to tell my employees that every day that we walk in our work, we're at the Super Bowl. Every single day. And I want to see the best that you can be. Because if you fail and you're trying to be the best you can be, I'm going to embrace that all day long. Don't be afraid to fail. There's a guy named Herm Edwards. They had a special on like the, what do they call that, the camp before football, summer camp or whatever, training camp. And there was a coach named Herm Edwards. If you look at, there's a special, it was on HBO or something on it. And Herm Edwards is standing up here one time yelling at all these guys about their blocking strategies and all this kind of stuff. And he says, powerfully, don't be afraid to be great. Don't be afraid to be great. You want to know something? I think a lot of us are afraid that if we try to be the greatest that we can be, that we're going to disappoint someone. Don't settle for average, because average is going to get you below average. EIU, the administrators, and the people that work here all want you guys to grow up to be leaders or somehow, somewhere. Y'all are not going to be entrepreneurs, do the kind of things that I do, but they want you to accelerate and to be great. They don't want you to be so-so. Who wants, in here, who wants to go out and be just so-so? So-so. Actually, there's a Japanese guy that I know named So-So. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway. A little too serious. But they want you to develop into leaders. Here's what you do. You have to have vision and you got to have noble goals. Noble. Ryan, what does noble mean?
He's like doing the right thing.
Doing the right thing. Any of you have to have ethics class in this place? You got to go through this decision making. It's a big deal. I'm telling you what, my generation of people, I'm 51 years old. I know it's like 100 to you guys, but anyway, I'm 51. My generation of people, I owe you an apology. Because we have set a standard in this country for decision making in the management world, the corporate world, that has failed us. We have taken advantage of greedy. We have taken advantage of ego things. We have taken advantage of everything possible to get ahead. Anybody ever look or see the documentary on Enron? I highly recommend every one of you as business students watch the unedited, what do you call that when it's got cuss words in it? Adult, no, it's not, an NP. What is it called? What was it, NR or there's some kind of rating or something? But anyway, there's a version in it that's like an hour and a half, 2 hours long. It's about the Enron story. You want to talk about some people who knew what they were doing was wrong. It was unbelievable. And you know how they start the movie off? There's a guy sitting in a car and he takes a gun and he shoots his head, blows his head off. True story. That guy was the chief financial officer of Enron. They made decisions that they couldn't live with. That man made decisions he couldn't live with. So why not be noble, try to do something, do the right thing? I can tell you, there's also sometimes you don't even know you're doing the wrong thing. So there is a bit of innocence when you're young, like you don't even know that you're making these decisions, but it matters a lot. We don't want to be just selfish in our goals. Easiest way to wreck a family, if you get married, easiest way to wreck a family is to only think of yourself. This is an important part. I start thinking the best about you right now and about him. If I think the best about you two, and you know that I really believe that, and it's not BS, not putting on a front, how can we not develop a relationship that's going to matter in this world, right? You have to have that conversation when you're in an interview process. You have to have those conversations. You have to get into that business. Do the research before you go there. I care about you, man. I want you to be all you can be tonight, tomorrow, the rest of your life. Because there ain't nothing like a wasted life. I sit in my company sometimes and I just go, I can't believe people don't get it. They don't get it. But I've been blessed with this, with this energy, this kind of encouragement thing. And I say that truly because if you knew me back when I was in high school, you'd be like, this dude's a punk, man. I'm going to knock him out, take him out right now, get him out of the room. But I had to come, settle down, go in the Navy for 4 years, kind of come to Eastern. Eastern kind of set the path and really helped me out a lot. So we want to have the mindset of a leader, resolve, courage, and endurance. Wisdom is the ability to apply knowledge correctly. You guys are learning a ton, right? You probably thought you were going to come here and I was going to teach you like how to figure out linear regression and do, macroeconomics quicker and solve the problems, right? These are the things that are important. But you got to take the knowledge you're learning here. What they're trying to do here at Eastern is they're trying to teach you how to think. And if you don't put the effort into thinking, and you don't put the effort into trying to solve the problems that Crystal Lynn, that Mr. Whitaker, that Patrick Lack gives you, or these other finance or accounting or marketing or any kind of professors here, if you don't put the time into trying to calculate up how am I going to solve this problem, and you do it the easy way and you go on the internet and you find the answer, who are you cheating? Yourself, right? You really are. You ain't cheating Eastern. That's the thing that people don't get. They think they're getting over on the institution and they're really cheating themselves. But wisdom is the ability to apply that knowledge that they're trying to teach you correctly. And courage is the will to apply it. There's a thing called a serenity prayer. I don't know what your faith is. If you have no faith, I'm gonna set aside here. I'm gonna tell you I am a faithful person with respect to a spiritual connection, okay? I'm telling you, in my life, if that would not have happened in the last 20 years, my head would be this big and my ego would be so big, I'd be walking around thinking that I was king of the hill and everybody needed to kowtow to me. the courage to try to maintain who you are and the roots that you came from. The truth of the matter is, half the time I'm late for things. If you ask me to prepare for something, I'm probably not going to be super prepared anymore because I'm kind of taking it for granted a little bit too much. I tend to not really respect other people's ideas if it takes them too long to get it across to me. I have a lot of issues personally I still work on. I need that. I need to answer to somebody. I have a personal coach that I answer to. I have a mentor that I answer to. I have a spiritual mentor that I answer to. I have 3 people around me that try to keep me grounded so my head don't get that big. And I have my wife, bless her heart. Stephen knows her. Been married for 21 years. She's unbelievable. 22 years now. And she's unbelievable. She, she's put up with a ton with me. I used to travel 40, 45 times a year. I'd be gone for 2-3 days. We have clients in New York. We have clients in Seattle, all over the United States, Miami. So you got to keep that mindset of the leader. There's 3 types of people. Those who watch things happen, those who talk about making things happen. Anybody want to guess what the third one is? Yeah, those who make, that's exactly what I thought was going to be on this slide too. Those who make things happen. But I decided to steal some Nike stuff. Those who actually do it. Don't tell Nike that because I'll probably get sued tomorrow. But anyway, it's true. Those who do it. Remember, how long have you guys been studying? In classes? Since, what, kindergarten, preschool? Most of you, what, 19, 20, 21 years old? Started when you're 4 years old, right? How long have you been learning? How many years? You're 20 and you started when you were 4. 16 years? Eastern math majors? All right? Been learning a long time, right? Let me tell you something. You'll never stop learning. If you catch the fire of learning, it will never, ever go out. Don't let it go out. Don't let your employer see it go out. Don't let your peers see it go out. Continue to learn forever. I hope to someday continue to learn forever. That's a goal of mine. But we learn, then we get the privilege of earning. It's like, hey, Ma, I got a job, man. You believe it? They're going to pay me like $46,000 a year. Unbelievable. I didn't think that Eastern education was going to pay off. I'm telling you, right? Or they're going to give me a job selling something because some guy told me, I could sell it better than the next guy. Or they're going to give me a job being a customer service person with Groupon because I learned from Mr. Longtin, and all I got to do is ask a few questions. I might be better at Groupon. Maybe they'll start my own department. Who knows? I might be the next billionaire at Groupon, right? But we got to earn. And when we earn, what is the next thing we should do? We should return. I've returned to Eastern tonight because Stephen Call took the time out to speak to me about where I was in my life. Cheryl Knoll, I guess, somehow didn't see my resume, at least the black part of it, and let me come tonight. But we're returning. And it isn't just money. It isn't just give money back, give money back. Bill Gates give how much money? Anybody know? Bill Gates, the richest man in the world, committed $40 billion, $30 billion, $30 billion to charity. Who did he put in charge of running that? A guy by the name of Bill Gates and his wife Melinda Gates. Do you guys know that? So we talk about Warren Buffett, these finance people that make all this money, these business people. What is he doing at the end of his life? Is he keeping it all in a big old bag so he can fly a jet over it and show everybody all his big old bag of money? Nope. There's probably a song about that, isn't there? You guys are laughing about this. Probably some rap song about flying over and looking at your bag of money. Is there? We could probably do one of them. Let's do it. Chris Brown, where's he at? Let's go. So we got to return. But I'm going to tell you a little bit, what am I doing with the future of my life? Here's what I hope to do. I had a chance to sell my company. I decided not to sell the company because I wanted to build the people. I wanted the people to realize their potential in life. I have a young man that called me for an internship when he was at ISU. He owns 15% of our company now. He's an incredible guy. He learned my business inside out. He didn't ask for too much money. He spent a lot of time. He works sometimes till 9 o'clock at night, even though he has a new baby child and wants to get home. He's responsible. He doesn't just go home at 5 o'clock. I have an intern now. After about the 4th day, I watched him go home at 5 o'clock. Actually, he goes home at 4 o'clock. About the 4th day I seen him go home, I walked up and said, Michael, what time is it? 3:58. Works over at 4 o'clock then for you, isn't it? Yep. He said, yeah, it is. And I said, after 4 o'clock, what do you do with your life? He said, well, I'm just going to go home, get the Xbox out. Did I touch a nerve, anybody? Get the Xbox out, play a little Forza. I don't know what he's going to play, right? World of Warcraft, or whatever it is, or something. I said, now how important is that to furthering your knowledge about our business? And he said, oh, no, it's not important. I said, do me a favor. Don't work longer than you need to, because then you'll prove to me that you care less than you ought to. And he looked at me like, okay, does that mean I got to work overtime? I was trying to get the point across. I don't care if he stayed till 4:07. If he went and picked up the garbage in the room over there and said, let me help you with your boots, and took your boots off. Anything. The little things like that. That's what employers like myself are looking for, and people like you, Eastern Illinois grads. That's what we're looking for. Just a little extra, you know, if you're a runner and you're going to run in marathons, you're going to run 5 miles, what's so hard about running 5.5 miles? It isn't. 26 miles. But what I want to do with the rest of my life, I'm going to tell you what my goals are. You guys are going to love this. One, I really would like to come back into teaching and to be a professor or some type of teacher at a university. I'm asking you as a survey here, do you think I have a chance to be successful? Hands raised if you think I have a chance. Okay. If you don't think I have a chance, don't raise your hands because I'll cry. But anyway, that's number one. Number two, this one you guys are going to crack up at. I'd like to own a surf shop in Huntington Beach or Newport Beach or somewhere on the beach, because I grew up a farm boy looking at friggin' cornfields, and I'd rather look at girls walking down the beach. No, I didn't say that. Anyway, so did I say that? But I want to own a surf shop, and I want to hang out on a beach and just be like chillax. That guy that chillaxes, the guy that ain't got no hair, gray, hair coming out his ears and stuff when he's 70 years old, people making fun of him. You know, I want to be that Al guy. Who's that Al guy that's always hanging out here? With a little surf shop, right? And then I also want to be a cross-country trucker. Not an ice road trucker, for you guys watching that crowd. I ain't going to do that, because you're going to freeze to death up there. But I figured I'd like to travel and see the rest of the United States, because I actually haven't seen that much of the United States. I've traveled more in Europe and around the world than I have in the United States. And I think it would be cool just to be a trucker. One of them guys that drives across the United States for a year. That's it. So, do you guys think that, which one would you be if you were in my position? What would it be? Surf shop? Well, whatever it is, do you think I'm going to try to have fun at it? Number one thing I want you to know, you guys have been very patient. You sat here, you listened to the big fat guy that rides a bike with those tight shirts on and just like grosses you out. I appreciate your patience and your time, and this whole night was about you I know I talked about myself, but I'm telling you, every one of you, I believe in you. And I'd like to tell you that I'd like to see you out on the highway when I'm a cross-country trucker, and you meet me in the truck stop and buy me some of that beef jerky or something, because I like beef jerky. Now, we got any questions? You got a question? Go ahead.
My question is more directed towards like your business. How did you go about not only like breaking down the barriers to get into the wealth management industry, but also like growing across state borders to get those high net worth clients? So like, what did you do that made them say, like building those relationships, but how did you get your foot in the door?
That's a good point. He said, how did I get my foot in the door and build a business across the country when I was a small company? And the truth of the matter is, my clients that I had in Chicago, I asked them, who are like you, some that you know? And they said, oh, well, I know a guy that has a widget manufacturing facility, much like mine, but he's in Cleveland. So there was a little airline called Southwest Airlines that I bought a $99 ticket, and I went to Cleveland and saw that guy. Word of mouth is how I grew nationally. I just figured if you knew her, and she was, you know, so that's what I did, is by referral and word of mouth. And then I developed relationships with CPAs and attorneys around the United States that thought they did what I did. They thought that they knew what I knew. But the truth of the matter is I knew just a little bit more about some specialty, something special in there. We're in a world of specialists. If you can learn to be a specialist in a certain area, you can get jobs and be employed anywhere. Look at the best job growth in like the nursing industry and things like that. They could work anywhere, right? So I learned how to be a specialist, and that's how we grew. But really much was word of mouth. It wasn't fancy-dancy marketing, all that stuff. And I can tell you, I probably could have grown faster using marketing and those kind of things, but it was always word of mouth. He knows that person knows that person, she knows him. That's how it worked. How many of you ever used LinkedIn? Not very many of you. Really? LinkedIn's crazy. You can go on there and find a person that knows somebody, and you probably could find out that they know the President of the United States. I'm not kidding you. It's pretty crazy. But any other questions? Go ahead, sir. Didn't go international.
Okay.
I travel international. Yeah, I travel international. Right. I go to Formula One races in Belgium and stuff like that. Yeah, fun stuff. And any other questions? I know you guys have been very patient. Thank you so much for the evening. I appreciate it very much.